Hello, it's Jackie here from Something About That, also known as Jack Mice, and I'm obviously taking over She Blog's Insta Stories today / right now, so yay! I am super excited about today's takeover because I'm going to be talking all about Flatlays and behind the scenes, some tips, tricks. First I'm going to change. I'm wearing a dress and I do not shoot in dresses, so okay. Much better. Big old comfy t-shirt, shorts, the whole thing. Okay, so, going to be honest about something. I did shoot some of the story yesterday, so mostly because I wasn't sure if I'd have the right lighting and the timing and all that stuff today, so it's gonna look like I changed again. So as you can probably tell by looking at my Instagram feed, I really love Flatlay photography, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically like those photos of stuff shot from above. So it's like 3D objects kind of made to look 2D. I definitely think it's a learning process in order to really like perfect the Flatlay. Not that anybody could ever be perfect at any type of photography. There's always things that you can learn, but I'm going to share some of my sharing some of my tips and tricks and kind of like the process behind the scenes with you guys today, which I'm super excited about. I did one time teach a workshop about this. Never done it on an Instagram story, so we'll see. So first and foremost, I think one of the most important steps is to just kind of plan ahead a little bit. So that means, whoa, I almost just spilled this. Buying some props. These are flowers. I bought some flowers. So I always like to have fresh flowers on hand when I'm shooting. I usually shoot like multiple shots at one time just because if I'm going through the effort to like get my setup, I want to make sure that it's worth it, I guess. It's also important that you shoot somewhere that has good natural lighting, unless it's the winter. In that case, studio lights are okay, but natural lighting is always best. I'm thinking today though, because it's gray, shooting outside is going to be much better. Also part of the planning process is I like to kind of save some inspiration. So you can save different images in the collections section of your Instagram, and I always like to take advantage. And while I obviously don't condone plagiarism, I do think it's okay to take inspiration from either yourself and like some of your old photos or from other people. It just kind of helps get the creative juices flowing. So I usually start. So also important in the planning process is to just kind of like figure out what you actually want to take photos of. I usually do a mixture of outfits and accessories and makeup and products. And then once I kind of have an idea of what it is that I'm actually shooting, I take these little squared Post-it notes and I draw out like rough ideas based on some of my inspiration and just kind of plan out the general layout. So as you can see, these drawings are quite crude. This is basically implying like maybe have my planner over here, a pair of shoes, some flowers, maybe a bag or something. Yeah. Over here, we've got, I think I want to show off these Vichy masks, which I really like. So, you know, I got like some bottle-y things here, maybe some flowers, leaves around it, just so I know where generally to start playing. Okay, so now I'm outside. I brought some of my stuff out, and I'm basically taking my weird little drawings and turning it into reality. And usually at this point I'll like mess around with it, take some test shots and see if I Okay, back to today. So basically, one of the things I realized that I didn't say is I always like to shoot on a clean white background just so that the objects like really pop. So I just use like a white piece of fabric. And I basically tend to stick with that because I want my trying to get the lighting. Lighting is like such a struggle these days, or all days. Anyways, I like my feed to have a very consistent look and feel, so I like to stick with the white. Depending on what your style is, obviously you don't need to use a white background. You could use like a piece of marble, like tearing paper you can get off Amazon, like basically anything that is big enough for the products that you're shooting. But so far, the biggest things that I do really is prepare by getting my ideas down, and then basically just taking the same photo like a million times, because each time will be a little bit different. Another piece of advice that I'd like to offer when you're just kind of like idea generating, like what am I going to put in the shot, make sure that the items that you're shooting go together. So for example, like don't shoot food and then put a pair of shoes on the table, because that's gross. I also find for me it's a lot easier to shoot a bunch of photos at one time, just because you'll already have your stuff out, the inspiration, you're like in the zone, you might as well take advantage of it. I just find that works for product and even outfit photos sometimes. Okay, so I think I've spewed like a ton of information at you, because I mean, I could talk about this stuff forever. So feel free, if you have any questions, to send a DM or even connect with me on my own account. I'll be back soon to talk about the editing and post-production. Okay, so back to Flatlays. I basically wanted to talk to you also a little bit about what I do for post-production, because it's really hard to show in a video, and I also wanted to talk, so no screenshots. But ultimately, one of my biggest like secrets, I guess you could say, is the way that I edit my photos, because, you know, this is pretty simple, but consistent editing, brightening, sharpening, all that kind of stuff. So whether you're talking about Flatlay photography or really any kind of photography, you can take a good photo and make it great by the way you edit. And I actually use 2 different apps to do my editing. So I always open my photos in Snapseed, which is, I believe, a free app from Google. So good for iPhone and Android. And basically, I like it for the fact that it has this little brush tool. Now, I didn't think this through, because I definitely can't show you how I use this and do a video. But basically, it lets you like select part of the photo, and you basically use your finger, this is obviously a computer, like a brush. So if you want to brighten up your whites, you do. So essentially I use Snapseed for like the super basic editing stuff that has to do with lighting and color and just brightening up the whites. And then I take it to another app. Then I use this app here called A Color Story, spelt without the U because it's American. And I use that to do any final tweaks, you know, maybe a bit of contrast, stuff like that, but more importantly for my consistent filter. So no matter what type of photo I'm posting, whether it's a selfie or, you know, a flat lay, food shot, anything like that, I like to keep it as consistent as possible. So I actually always edit it similarly and use the same filter. And I realize that might sound boring possibly, but it just kind of helps create that cohesive look, even if your subject matter isn't necessarily cohesive, and it just ties it all together really nicely. So as you can obviously see from even just those 2 examples, editing can make a huge difference. So you get rid of the yellowish, you like fix your colors, you just kind of give it the mood and the feel that you like, and it looks completely different, I think. And I should also add that obviously you can use your fancy DSLR camera, you can use Photoshop or Lightroom or any desktop programs and make it amazing, but those were all shot with iPhone, edited on iPhone. So anyways, that's essentially the process that I go through when I take my Flatlay photos. A lot of it really is practice, and the more you do it, the more you can kind of get better and kind of define your style. But I'm going to sign off now because it is almost 11 p.m. and I set my alarm for 5:45 tomorrow. So if you have any other questions, comments, even any other tips, just want to chat, feel free. I have my my arm resting on my leg. Feel free to send me a message. I'm always happy to chat. Thanks for watching.